Artificial intelligence is already shaping the way journalism gets done, from transcription tools and search optimization to content summaries and, yes, even story writing. But how do the people who trust us for information feel about that? Hi, I'm Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P Magazine. This is E&P Reports, a weekly vodcast series that explores the people, organizations, and issues shaping the evolving news publishing industry, with candid conversations and bold ideas and insights that matter to media leaders. A new national survey funded by the Walton Family Foundation and conducted by the local media association and Trusting News asked nearly 1,500 local news consumers one simple but important question: how should newsrooms use AI? Joining me today to unpack the findings are two leaders behind the project. John Humenik, a veteran local media leader. His career spans decades as a publisher, editor, content executive. I'm not sure, John, are you still director of the LMA Local Media Association AI Community Journalism Lab? Because you were recently elevated and promoted to Chief Strategy and Operations Officer at the LMA. Congratulations, John.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for having us. Yes, I still am very much involved with the FIMS Lab and the AI Community Journalism Lab, and really appreciate the opportunity that I have in LMA, and especially working with terrific publishers.
And a warm welcome to Lynn Walsh, an Emmy Award-winning journalist, former president of the Society of Professional Journalists, the SPJ, and currently the assistant director of Trusting News. Lynn, will you quickly give our audience the elevator pitch on what is Trusting News and the role it played in the survey?
Yeah, thank you so much. So our goal at Trusting News is that most people can access and consume accurate, ethical, responsible information. Most of the time that's coming from journalists. And so what we're trying to do is build trust between them and the public. Primarily, we know that works through transparency and engagement and listening, which is something that we helped may do in those newsrooms on this survey is, hey, if you have questions about what your audience thinks about your use of AI, let's ask them. What better way to make informed decisions than to see what they're comfortable with, what they're not, and what they expect when you use AI.
After the break, what do local news audiences really think about AI in journalism? The answer might challenge everything you've assumed and offer us a roadmap for doing it right. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Walter Hussman. Our family has been in the news business for over 100 years. Journalism includes two parts: reporting the news and providing opinions. But in recent years, there's been too much opinion appearing in news reporting. This has eroded public trust in news reporting to the lowest level of any U.S. institution. To address this, we started a nonprofit, the Center for Integrity in News Reporting.
The Center for Integrity in News Reporting, CFINR, is on a mission to rebuild public trust in journalism, one newsroom and one classroom at a time. We champion the effort to have news organizations and journalism schools create and prominently display their own clear, concise statements of core journalistic values. Learn more by visiting the Center for Integrity and News Reporting site at cfinr.org.
All right, gang, let's start with the top takeaways. The report, 98.8% of respondents said they want a human involved in any newsroom use of AI, especially when it comes to content creation. Lynn, we've got you quoted saying, when it comes to the actual content creation, people are less comfortable with AI being used, even if you specify that a human will be involved in the process. What does that tell us about the trust gap and how AI is used?
Yeah, so this builds off of other surveys Trusting News has done asking news consumers this question, right? We are finding similar thing year after year. People are much more comfortable when humans are involved. And basically what people are saying they want guardrails in place. If you are going to use AI, they want to know that you are still doing it in an ethical way, and how are you making sure that it's accurate? And one of really the only ways to make sure that it is accurate is to have that human in the loop. And they want to know. So they want you to tell them that. And then when you look at, again, the specific use cases, we just saw that generally people are just more uncomfortable when no human is involved, or if AI is being used in more of the creation process and not as kind of a tool or support.
John, the AI lab and your work there, were you surprised by the degree of discomfort? You've worked closely with local newsrooms trying to integrate these tools. Did that 98.8% number shift how you think about the rollout?
Thanks, Mike, for the question. I would tell you that it didn't surprise me, but what really gave us an opportunity was to have an incredible conversation with the audiences, to help them understand what AI can do, help them understand how AI may be actually used in news, but also what are some of the behind the scene things that Lynn mentioned that newsrooms use AI for. And then the other part would be the experimentation. As newsrooms start to look at ways to find solutions to workflow issues or to find efficiencies, AI can be a really great partner in that process. But really what it's going to take is a conversation in the newsroom and externally with the community. So in the AI lab, a huge component of the lab was community outreach.
Lynn, the data also showed some nuance. 47.6% reported being uncomfortable overall. More than 58% were supportive, curious, or cautious, but open-minded. So what's the opportunity here for newsrooms that want to build support, especially with their loyal readers?
And so we asked the question in a couple different ways to try to get at comfort level with use of AI by saying, well, what if it allowed us to do more? What if it allowed us to do things more efficiently, right? So when we asked that, we did see that while comfort level varied, I see that even though we see a large number of people that are uncomfortable still with AI use, there's still this group in any version of those questions that we asked, about 30%, that said that they were unsure. And so what I see there is that you have a group that is comfortable, you have a group that is uncomfortable, but then you have this group in the middle. And they're really trying to tell you, I maybe don't know enough about AI yet, or I need more information before I can really see if your use of AI is something I'm comfortable with. And that is actually something that I see as a big opportunity for newsrooms. We have an opportunity to bring them along with us as we experiment, because that's what we're all doing. We don't have the answers. We're experimenting. And so let's talk to them about this process and let's show them how we are being accurate, responsible, and ethical through our use of this. And we're going to show you why and how so that you can be comfortable with our use like we are.
All right, let's get to the lab again with John. John, was there a safe zone? I mean, which applications resonate best, if any, with the readers? Transcription, automation, summarization, all of the above, none of the above? Let's get down into the weeds here, if we don't mind, sir. What do you see?
Yeah, and thank you. On page 10 of the report that you can find at localmedia.org, and also on the Trusting News website, it's a really great graphic because what it shows is the willingness or how accepting audiences are with certain types of use cases, as Lynn mentioned. What they were okay with to a point, and they want more education on this as well, is translating content in other languages, converting text to audio, editing stories to improve clarity or grammar, spelling, transcribing interviews, analyzing data, preparing questions for interviews with sources. And then after that, it really got to be the kind of unsure, not knowing what do you mean by this? How will that help you generate more content? What will that do for you? And I think what really my understanding of it is the fascination and the interest that audiences have with what journalists do to gather news and information and process that information and what that looks like. And then you throw in AI capabilities, and now they're very interested. But still, as Lynn points out, they're unsure. So we've got an excellent opportunity to help them through the education process and to share what we're doing in the labs like this one with experimentation. So I think that there's a great opportunity here all the way around for everyone involved in AI usage.
Okay, let's go back to this 97.8 number, Lynn. They want to know if AI was used, but they don't want the footnote. They want the full story. What is AI disclosure look like in practice? And how should newsrooms make that part of their editorial process? Not just a disclaimer. What is full transparency? What should we be doing?
Yes, I'm so glad you brought this up because yes, people want a human involved, but the other thing people really, really want is they want transparency. So first and foremost, if you're a newsroom that you are using AI, get something out to the public that says that. It can be a simple letter from the editor. It can be a simple FAQ. Maybe it is a full-blown AI ethics policy, right? Those policies are key. People said they want guardrails. Then, if you are in your individual stories using AI on a regular basis, in that FAQ, in that ethics policy, you can talk about those general uses that you use all the time. If you use it for spelling and grammar, you use it for research, you use it for backgrounding of sources, maybe say that. Say these are some examples of how we use it. And then you can link to that and share that often. But on day-to-day content, when you are using AI, if that's to edit video, if that is to edit audio, if that is to help you create images, people are saying in that moment, they want to know that. They want to know that AI was used. And so when we dig into that question a little bit more, people want to know why it was used. They want to know how you still made sure it was accurate. They also want to know what is like the benefit to them. And so at Trusting News, we actually have a trust kit, an AI trust kit that has the language for newsrooms to copy and paste that they can put on the top of a story. At the bottom of a story, you can say it during a radio interview. It can just be a couple sentences, but people do want to know, why did you decide to use this? And how are you still making sure it's ethical, accurate, and responsible?
All right, Lynn, I'm going to put you on the spot. We recently had a webinar at E&P that caused a lot of conversation because Tao Diaz, who used to be at G&I, now he's working with one of our marketing partners. He actually said to our audience that you need 15 stories a day published to be relevant in today's world. He called that a reference point, not a benchmark, full disclosure, but clarified that 2 strong originals still beat 15 rewrites. But his point was this: in a world where readers now scroll past thousands of pieces of content, staying part of the conversation requires frequency. What say you to people who say, I just don't have the resources, I'm going to start turning to AI because I just have to generate more content?
So what I say is that AI, at this point, cannot replace journalism. It cannot create new content. It needs information to be trained on in order to create that content. And so if you are a newsroom and you are relying too heavily on AI to create those 15 stories, and you are not relying on the human elements of reporting, which is being a person in your community, working in your community, living in your community, knowing your neighbors, knowing friends and family in there, you cannot provide the context, right? So context cannot be provided by just creating content, right? AI is really great at creating content. It is not good at providing context, and only humans can really provide that from a journalistic aspect. And so a couple other things I want to say about that is, look, if we see people go more to rely on AI to get information and chatbots, the AI that pops up on Google, right? Potentially what he said is true, that if you want your stories and your content to pop up and be informational, creating more content, creating key summaries could benefit those results. That still doesn't mean they're clicking to your stories, though. And so if people want that deeper dive, you need to give them a reason to click and a reason to go there. That deeper dive does not happen with kind of a sort of more generic help from AI by feeding them the story of a city council meeting, for example. It cannot provide the knowledge and the expertise that journalists can to make that content and what happened at that meeting matter to the community and create that impact. There's still so much that humans really can only do.
John, you're nodding your head for those that are watching the video. Anything to add from the lab?
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with what Lynn said, is that what we learned in the lab was that let's start first by walking through the workflows. Okay, let's decide that we're going to do that element first. And as you go through the workflows in a news operation, how can you, through efficiencies, get more time for local reporting? I mean, how can that happen? And as you go through that process with the staff and you're actually having those conversations, what you'll find is that AI tools can do some things to give you more resource time back, okay? But what it can't do is replace the human element of really sound news judgment, okay? Or replace the capability of coming up with that idea or that sense of saying, we can do something different in our organization that's going to free up our journalists. What it can do is point you in a direction. And that's what I think is useful with AI tools. They point you in a direction. But the key here is truly to find those workflow efficiencies so more time can be spent on the craft of journalism.
All right, so let's see what's next. Both of you have made it very clear, and I'll throw in my 2 cents. I agree as well. So do we at E&P. It's about the relationship between local journalism and the audience, not the tech. But John, you've emphasized the need for community outreach, and you're doing a lot at the AI Lab and at LMA. So what's next with real world stuff, and what do you see coming in the future, sir?
Yeah, I see. If we take it, and I tell you, we should do this in every chance we get, is to communicate with our audiences and let them know in real time what we're doing, okay? And I tell you, every time we've done that, in my career at least, especially when you think about, when we first started with the internet and then social media, we brought the users and the audiences along together with us. And that was valuable on many levels. One was because emerging technology is just that. It's emerging. It's moving very quickly. And our audiences are interested. So when you have interested audiences and you have fast-paced technology, what news operations can do is slow it down and explain. Slow it down and show the uses of it. Slow it down and have the capabilities that are beneficial to news operations, but also beneficial to audiences. So if we can do that, especially at this time, Mike, going forward, we're going to be helping communities, we're going to be helping news operations, and we're going to be creating better content all the way around because of the sense of truly understanding what are we doing, why are we doing it, and what's the result of it. And I think that we have got a great story to tell going forward in local media.
Lynn, going to give you the final word. How do you hope newsrooms will use this data, not just a caution sign, but as a roadmap?
One of my biggest things that I hope is a takeaway is that while I do think journalists should be experimenting with AI, there are a lot of good use cases where AI can help within the newsroom and within just the process that is journalism, the back end systems. John talked about that a lot. AI also is getting pretty good at creating content and repurposing content. I mean, if we are really realistic about if we can give it a version of our story and tell them to make it a social version, it does a pretty good job at that, right? But AI can do content. It can't do context. It cannot have conversations with people. It does not have the lived experience you have in your community. So I really hope that journalists do not look at AI as this tool that is going to save us and instead looks at it as a way for us to maybe do our jobs more efficiently, help us be more efficient with some of our systems, but then lean into the community service aspect of journalism. Go back out in your communities, show up at the library, show up at meetings and talk to people, not to get quotes, talk to people, have conversation. Let's host gatherings to bring people together to debate. I know that may not be a traditional element of journalism, but I think if we really lean into that community aspect and we play that role for communities, we will build that trust. If we build that trust, people will turn to us again, more so than before. And I really, really do believe with all kind of the AI slop that's out there, to be honest, on social media and everywhere else, people want direction and want to know where to go for accurate, ethical, responsible information. The only way I think we're going to achieve that, though, is by moving back into the community, by listening, engaging, guiding conversation, maybe even educating. That's something we're experimenting with at Trusting News, how AI works, how technology works. Is that a way to help build trust with the community, to have them kind of keep coming back? We're being useful, we're being helpful.
The tools may be new, but the expectations seem to be not. Transparency, be human, put your audience first. John Humenik, Chief Strategy Officer and Chief Strategy and Operations Officer at the LMA. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. And Lynn Walsh, Assistant Director of Trusting News, we appreciate your hard work as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.